Good day, everyone. This is Ma'am Jo, and for today's discussion, we will have the continuation of the different sampling techniques. Last time we discussed the non-probability sampling. So for today, we will have probability sampling. Okay, so this time for probability sampling, there are four techniques. First, we have the simple random sampling. Next, we have systematic, and then stratified, and the last one is cluster sampling. So let us differentiate one from the other. Okay, so the first one is a simple random sampling. It is a sampling technique in which every element of the population has an equal chance of being chosen to be part of the sample. So usually we use here the lottery method. If you are familiar with in playing lotto or how to determine the winning numbers in a lotto, for example 645, that is one example of lottery method. So you have there, for example 645, there are 45 numbers written in a ball inside a bowl, and then they are mechanically generated if six numbers are needed for the winning combination. So automatic, it will one by one they will pop out of the tube. Okay, so another type of lottery method is that you can write all the names or all the numbers in a piece of paper and then put it in a bowl, and then randomly you select the samples that you need. Okay, so another method is the table of random numbers. So this table contains rows and columns, and then there is a mechanically generated digits. So instead of putting all the piece of paper in a bowl, this one you already have the table for the columns and rows, and then there is a digit. So these are the two methods that we can use to select the sample using simple random sampling. Okay, these are situational problems for simple random sampling. Number one, in a recent research that was conducted in a private school, the subjects of the study were selected by using table of random numbers. So the method being used, table of random numbers, is being described. So this one is an example. And another one, a researcher selected a sample of 120 from a population of 850 by using lottery method. So these are two examples for simple random sampling. Next is the systematic sampling. So it is a random sampling technique in which every kth or nth element of the population is selected until the desired number of elements in the sample is obtained. So we usually use this formula: K is equal to N over capital N divided by small n. Capital N refers to the number of population, and small n will be the number of samples needed. And therefore, we can determine what will be the pattern for the K. So example, we are asked to choose 50 students from grade 11. You can ask them to form a line, and or you can have a list of students wherein the names of those grade 11 students are listed, and then you will be using this formula to select the sample. So for instance, if you select okay, the second element in the population, and then applying the pattern every third element. So your first sample will be the second person listed or the second person in line, and then the next one will be number 5, and then number 8, number 11, that is every third, and the next one is every 14th, and so on and so forth. So you just follow the pattern every third element of the population. So that's why it is systematic. So there is a pattern. Okay, next we have the systematic sampling. So it is a random sampling technique in which every kth or nth element of the population is selected until the desired number of elements in the sample is obtained. So for example, again, list of grade 11 students, and then you only need the 20 or 30 students. So they will be, it's either you form them in a line, or you have a list of those names, and then you may select and use this formula in finding the number of samples. So for instance, you start with the second sample, and then you will select the remaining samples every third Okay, so the pattern will be you're going to select the next sample using the formula every third element in the population. So the first one is those listed in number 2, and then the next one will be number 5 item, and then number 8, number 11, and so on and so forth until you get the desired number of 30 students. So this is why it is called systematic. Okay, so you're going to have a pattern for the kth or nth element of the population. Examples: the office clerk gave the researcher a list of 500 grade 10 students. The researcher selected every 20th name on the list. So here the pattern will be every 20th name. Another one, a researcher is doing research work on the students' reaction to the newly implemented curriculum in mathematics and interviewed every 10th student entering the gate of the school. So this time your pattern now is every 10th element. Okay, so this is systematic sampling. The third one is stratified sampling. So this one is a sampling technique in which the population will be partitioned or grouped into several subgroups, and that subgroup is called strata. So based on characteristics, they will be grouped, and they can group them according to the year level, gender, age, ethnicity, and others. So, and then samples will be randomly selected separately from each stratum. So for instance, we have our strata will be male and female. So if you need 50 students as a sample, you can select 25 from the female and another 25 from the male. So in each strata or in each group, subgroups, you're going to select a sample. So that is stratified. You're going to group them first according to strata, and then you get a particular sample in each strata. Okay, these are the examples. A researcher interviewed people from each town in the province of Bataan for his research on population. So here, our strata are the towns in the province of Bataan. For instance, you have Pilar, Limay, Orion, Maribeles, Abukay, Orani, and so on and so forth. So in each town, the researcher should interview a particular people so that he will have a representative or a sample from each stratum. Another one, a researcher who is studying the effects of educational attainment on promotion conducted a survey of 50 randomly selected workers from each category. So we have high school graduate with undergraduate degrees, with master's degree, and with doctoral degree. Again, our strata here are these categories, and in each stratum, again, if he needs 50 sample, he should get a particular sample in each stratum. So that is how it is. That is why it is called stratified. And lastly, we have the cluster or area sampling. So this one is a technique in which the entire population is broken into small groups or clusters, and then some of the cluster is randomly selected. So the data from the randomly selected clusters are the ones that are being analyzed. So for instance, our clusters is cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4. And then you put those names, cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, you write it in a piece of paper, and then you put it in a bowl. Okay, and then you need to select two cluster. So this one, all you have to do is to randomly pick a number from those bowl. For instance, if you pick cluster 2, all those members in the cluster 2 will be selected. And then you pick another piece of paper inside the bowl. For example, you get cluster 4. So all those members in cluster 4 will be included in the selection. And the remaining cluster that was not chosen, they will not be included in the research. Okay, so this is how it differs from stratified. In stratified, in every group, you have to get a sample. But in cluster, after grouping them into cluster, you will not get a sample from each. Okay? All the members in a cluster, when they are selected, they will be the one to participate in the research. Okay? That's why it's called cluster or area sampling. Example, a researcher randomly selected 10 barangays in a town for her study. She did this by writing the names of each barangay on a piece of paper, which she folded and put in a bowl. Then she draws 10 pieces of paper from the bowl. So, just like the example that I have given earlier, so you have here 10 barangays. If he needs only 2 barangays, so the cluster will be the names of the barangay written in the piece of paper. And if he needs only 3 barangays, that will be the representative of the study. So, whatever barangay is being picked or chosen, so all the members of those barangay will be included in the study. So the rest of the barangay that was not chosen, they will be disregarded. Okay? So that is an example of cluster. Okay, for further understanding, this is the illustration of stratified random sampling and cluster. So this one is your first strata, second strata, third strata, and fourth strata. In each strata, you will get a sample from each. While in cluster, this one is divided into 5 clusters and only 2 clusters are being selected. So that is how they differ from one another. Okay, to sum up, this is the illustration of simple random, systematic, stratified, and cluster sampling. Okay, so this one is with pattern. This one is random selection using lottery method. This one you have to group them into strata and then you get a sample from each strata, while cluster is you group them according to cluster or subgroups, but you only pick the cluster, all the members of the clusters. Okay. Okay, that ends our discussion for today. For your output, visit the Google Classroom and then kindly subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you.